Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of The Curse of the Collector. We do this show because... Come on, guys.
The curse is real.
Curse is real.
Yeah, we all dropped the ball.
we forgive us. We had daylight savings last night, so everybody's kind of in a fog this morning. So yeah.
Always throwing those curveballs at us, Pete.
I know. I got to keep you guys on your toes.
And the late night from the Winery Dog show.
He was at the Winery Dogs last night. We have all been, I think, is there any, so probably Davey and Scott haven't seen the Winery Dogs yet, but the other three of us have gone.
I think they're coming to town in the next week or two.
Are you going to go?
I kind of like to.
You should. Yeah.
That sounds like a no.
No, it's not a no.
Kind of like to.
You kind of like to maybe.
So, I haven't listened to them a whole lot yet, but
dude, just go and see them.
There's a lot of shit to listen to, Jamie.
Say hi to Sydney.
Yeah, say hi to Sydney. I will tell you, Scott. So Jack Toledano came with me to the show in New Jersey, and he really hadn't listened to them all that much. He loved it. He had a great time.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Mike Portnoy through Dream Theater. I know that stuff. I like a lot of it, and so I'm open to hearing Winery Dogs. I have nothing. There's nothing keeping me away. It's just there's a lot of stuff to take in.
Oh yeah, so much, isn't there?
Yeah.
Grace didn't go with me.
Like 3 wow factors. You're gonna have a hard time to which one you're gonna pay attention to. There are a 3-ring circus that is just blowing your mind the way they play, and then it's all about the song too. So they really deliver, folks. High energy, and most importantly, they play for their audience, and they had us in the palm of their hand all night last night. It was great.
Yeah,
so,
Grace didn't go with me, but then I played her
cool.
the CD after the show, and she said maybe I should have went to that show.
Yeah, Scott, knowing what you like, I think you'd really enjoy yourself. And Davey, they're coming to Europe in a couple months, so you might be able to see them at some point if you.
Awesome.
So yeah,
I haven't gone on vacation in a couple of weeks, so they might be in town. I'd have to look. They might be in town when I'm out of town.
If you can catch them, do it. I think you'll enjoy yourself. But anyway, we digress. So let me introduce the crew here. We got all the way from Scotland, Davey Gallagher, from the great state of Texas, Scott Berry, from Ohio, Jamie Laszlo, and all the way up in Canada, Rick Labonte. Welcome, gentlemen. Ready for some show and tell?
Sure.
Hell yeah.
Cool. As always, we're going to go 2 rounds through the group here. We've each brought something for each round to talk about that we've gotten, some cool collectible or things or whatnot. So we're going to go Jamie, we're going to go Davey, we're going to go Scott, we're going to go Rick, and then myself, and then we'll go one time around again. So Jamie, kickstart us off with your first selection of the day or your first.
Alrighty. I got to tell you, one of my favorite things about this channel is how your guests bring their own favorite kind of genres to the show, things that wouldn't normally get talked about if it was the old school days with just you, Pete. You got Ryan and Nick bringing their crazy extreme metal that nobody ever heard of. They travel overseas to go see these bands play in somebody's basement, which amazes me. You got Martin talking about his punk rock. You even got Scott here. He brings up his indie rock stuff. So I love that. So that's my little theme of today. I like to have themes sometimes and a narrative. So I'm going to talk about stuff that normally doesn't get talked about. And this first style of music, genre of music, whatever you want to call it, I just started getting into really recently. And I love diving into new styles and genres of music for the first time. It's like a whole new world you go into. Some people travel and they check off the countries they traveled. I stay home and just check off the different genres of music that I want to explore. And this one kind of goes back, believe it or not, all the way back to 1988. So, it's one of those styles of music where I need to get into that someday. And it took a long time. So I was a freshman. Don't worry, guys. My second pick will be real quick. I was a freshman back in 1988, 89. I was a freshman in college at Point Park College, which is downtown Pittsburgh. It was 2 buildings right in downtown. So your campus was pretty much the city of Pittsburgh. And there was this little bar down the street, little dive bar called Jimmy's Tavern. And we were 18 and 19 years old going in there getting served. You could do that back in 1988. Yeah, I had bar tabs. I would leave without paying a thing like Norm and Cheers and say, put it on my tab. And we'd pay the next time we were in. but they had a jukebox with a telephone attached to it. Never seen one before, never seen one actor. And it wasn't rigged in some ghetto kind of way where a phone is duct taped to the top of a regular jukebox. It was made to have a phone on it. It didn't have any buttons that the receiver pushed down. You just put in your quarter, you pick up the receiver, the phone was embedded into the jukebox, and you talk to, and then this guy came on and said, what do you want to hear? And for like a year, we'd get wasted in there. Where the fuck are you, dude? We never got a solid answer. We're upstairs in the attic? Is this a company? Where are you? So we would try to always stump this guy with the music. I've got Electric Prunes. I had too much to dream last night. Son of a bitch, it's on. So my buddy Rich would get hammered. We were drinking pitchers of beer back then for like $3 a pitcher. And he'd go,
the old days.
He'd sit there and go, it's time for Otis. Time for Otis. And he'd stumble up to that thing and go, Otis, Tenderness. And here it comes, live version of Otis Tender. So we would listen to that song every time we were in there. Now, me, I only knew Sitting on the Dock of the... That's the only thing I knew at the time. So when this Tenderness song would come on, I remember the first time I heard it, it's real slow. I'm like, what'd you play, dude? Killing my buzz. But then it got going, and it was so abrasive and aggressive. I was just amazed. I'm like, wow. But I never dove in to that style of music. I never even dove into his catalog. So now I just knew 2 songs for pretty much the rest of my life leading up to now. But about 10 years ago, I watched this movie, Watt Stacks, however you want to say it. And 10 years ago, I was like, I don't know how I watched it. I was streaming it. I said, this is amazing. What a time capsule. Your TV just becomes this black hole, and you go into 1972 through your TV, like a wormhole almost. And I said, you know what? I need more of this kind of music in my life. Well, still another 10 years go by, and I still don't take the plunge. Well, I finally took the plunge, and I did get the best of Watt Stacks. There is a 12 version of this that came out. It's like almost $200, and it has a lot of I think there were shows going on down the street from the main thing.
Yep.
And they have a lot of those shows. They have the main shows in the stadium. I don't know if I need that. 12 discs is a lot. There's only, I'm only awake for 13, 14 hours a day. I got so much music. What am I going to do? It'll look nice on a shelf. I'll get 3 discs in and go, and then I'll be on to something else. I know me. So I think this is really good to have. But what I did get, and what I really wanted to show, is the Stacks Story, which is a 4-disc set of just a little bit of everything. So disc 1 is like the hits. So you got the hits on it. Disc 2, they call it, Kinda Blue. And then disc 3 is Finger Snapping Good. If you ask me, there's not much of a difference between those 2 discs in the music styles. You don't get a bunch of blues songs on the Kinda Blue and more it's the same. And then the 4th one is a live disc. So, and then I watched a little documentary that was made for PBS on YouTube about Stacks. So I went all in on this shit because, right? The more you know. So this was my takeaway. And I love how the Stacks studio was a theater. And like with the stage and with the flooring and seats that went up and the ceiling that came down. So it gave everything kind of a live feel. And there was a record store. This is in a little neighborhood, segregated neighborhood, where black people and white people are making music together, which is beautiful. And there was this little record store right next to the studio where you would buy the records being made next door, and people would hang out at the record store because they had a speaker outside. And I'm just thinking, what memories these people must have from back then, hanging out at that record store with the studio next door. Great memories I wish I had. But here are some songs, mainly from disc one, that I knew the song. I didn't know who sang them. And I never even heard of these artists before, but I knew the songs. Mr. Big Stuff, that's been stuck in my head for the last 5 days.
Who do you think you are?
Gene Knight.
Yeah.
Okay, Gene Knight. What You See Is What You Get. Oh, who doesn't know that song? The Dramatics. Oh, doesn't even ring a fucking bell.
Oh, I know it. Great song.
Hold On, I'm Coming. Sam and Dave.
Sam and
Soul
Dave,
Man.
yeah.
I knew Soul Man, but I didn't know that they did that.
Yeah.
Better knock, knock, knock on wood. Eddie Floyd.
Eddie Floyd. Yeah.
I know Pink Floyd. I don't know Eddie Floyd.
That was their brother. That was their brother.
I've been lonely for so long. Frederick Knight. I have no idea who that fucking guy is either.
Gladys Knight's dad.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I
Seriously?
made that up. No, I just
Now
made that
this
up.
threw
I
me
didn't know.
for a loop. This threw me for a loop. I'm sitting there working. I think this was Monday, and I hear the beginning of the song. I'm like, what the hell? And then they go into what a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty fine man. That's not In Vogue.
It's like, wait a second,
Someone
I knew
else
that
did
was a
that
cover.
song
Yeah.
first? That's not Salt and Pepper and In Vogue. Son of a bitch, I had no idea. Linda Lindell. Never heard of it. Now there are some instrumentals on here that, you know, I'm sure they were fine at the time, but they sound very generic to me now. So not everything's a win here. Not everything.
Booker
Booker
T.
T and the
Booker
MGs.
T and the
Booker
MGs.
T.
Yeah,
you
the
have to
Booker
have-
T and the MGs, their music's, and I don't like the church organ that much. and
Well, that's
it's
Booker T.
very- it sounds like a good foundation, their instrumentals, for a better song. Like, okay, that's the beginning. Now what you going to add to it? Maybe it needs a little something here, some textures, some vocals, but you're just getting the, you know, the same repetitive thing.
Well-
their live version on the live disc of Green Onions
Yes.
is really good. Nice work on there. The
Well, you could-
Marquees, not to
King
be
Curtis
confused
as
with
well, yeah.
Marquees.
Mhm.
Last Night, Philly Dog. Yeah. So yeah, there are some instrumentals that are okay. Songs I like that I never heard before. Your Good Thing Is About to End by Mabel John. I don't know who that is. I'll
It's
Run
Dr.
Your
John's
Herd
mum.
Away, Ruby Johnson. I Ain't Particular by Johnny Taylor. I've Never Found a Girl to Love Me Like You Do by, here he is again, Eddie Floyd.
Eddie
I
Floyd
Forgot
was
to
the
Be
main
Your
songwriter.
Lover. Another Eddie Floyd. So I'm
That's-
thinking maybe I need some
and
Eddie
that's
Floyd
William
in my
Bell.
life. God, this chick's voice. You know, I'm not going to say this woman is like the sexiest woman in the world, but if her voice was a woman, it would be, she's got the sexiest voice I've ever heard. Mavis Staples, I have learned to do without you. Albert King, who kicks ass, you know, somebody up, breaking up somebody's home. Oh God, in this song, this song almost had me on the floor. Johnny Taylor, It's Cheaper to Keep Her.
Which the Blues Brothers
lines,
covers. Yeah.
Cost too much to leave her. He goes, what does he say? You see another woman out there and you want to make a change. She ain't gonna want you because you don't have a damn thing. Because of alimony and shit. So it's cheaper to keep her. The live CD is you know, what I got from that is I think Sam and Dave were something to see live, and also from that documentary I watched. And then I heard that Try song again on there, and it brought me back to Jimmy's 1988-89. I'm like, yeah, what took me so long? And then Johnny Taylor, Jody's Got Your Girl and Gone, really kick ass with great horn sections, and that's the second time I brought up him, so maybe I need to get into him. And Albert King, his live stuff is pretty much blue,
Oh
it's
yeah.
blue, like Fury Vaughn shit. It's
Oh, yeah.
really
He was a
Well,
big
live blue.
He loved him.
They did the
And,
album together for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Funky Chicken. Look, if you've never seen this movie before, I don't know if it's on YouTube, but what's his name? Rufus Thomas doing the Funky Chicken. When we watched this again yesterday, and it's been 10 years, and the only thing I remembered was him doing the Funky Chicken, and everybody came onto the grass in the movie from the stands. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people. And then Rufus tries to get everybody off the grass, and everybody leaves except one asshole. And Rufus gives it to him. And it's the funniest fucking thing you've ever seen in any music documentary. It's something to see. So go out on YouTube and see if you can find that. So that's where I'm at. So where did I go from there? I got some Otis in my life now. I got the cheap
Gotta
little
have Otis.
Yeah.
and there's
Otis,
some
my
live
man.
albums here. Volume 1 is like the albums that came out when he was alive. Volume 2 are the albums that were released after he died, which is a nice little way of breaking it up, because those cheap things, they don't normally do things as cool as that, breaking it up pre-death and pre-death and post-life, I guess. I got me some Staple Singers, their biggest album.
Respect Yourself.
Respect Yourself, yeah.
It's
And
amazing how you buy a compilation, all of a sudden that turns into branching out and all sorts.
Yes,
yeah.
this is
Exactly. I know
what the
you're gonna
world is. You
branch
go
out
down
now.
hallways. It's a whole new world. I got Boy Meets Girl, which is like duets between male and females. And then this isn't Stax, but I saw this movie when it first came out and it was so good. I bought the movie now, and now I got the soundtrack, Summer of Soul, which was
The Questlows
in 1968.
Yeah.
69, because it was the alternate
69?
Woodstock. Yeah.
Okay, 1969. And I will say about this, you get to see Stevie Wonder do a drum solo if you watch the movie. You know, everyone there got to see Stevie Wonder do a drum. The only person that didn't see Stevie Wonder do a drum solo there was Stevie Wonder.
Yep.
So, and I will say that Gladys Knight, I never thought she was like a hot chick or anything, you know, but on this movie, she is cute as hell. You know, for one moment in her life, it was that 60s hair that always does it for me. You know, that Agent 99 Barbara Feldon hair always does it for me. You could put that wig on my dog and I go, Miley, looking pretty good today.
Hey, Jamie, I got a
So
question.
that's where I'm at right now with I got some soul in my life, guys. Finally.
Rick's got a question.
Very good.
Okay, and that box set that you have, I don't know about the tech. See, I got Otis Red, and I would turn on because I watched the Monterey Pop Festival, and he
I have that too.
on that, and I've been a fan since then. And so, but there's 2 great live albums. Is it in your box set? It's called In Person at Whiskey a Go Go, and then Good to Me Live at the Whiskey Volume 2. It's a must-have. You want to get his passion on tape that they recorded. It's great, and so I recommend those 2 concerts if you don't have them. You'll
Yes,
feel
this
more.
has the Whiskey a Go Go, and it has a live in Europe.
Okay. Oh, that's a good one too.
Those.
But yeah, we lost them due to an airplane crash, right? So those live documentary is like right in its prime, like that. The good way to get for your
It
collection.
was putting his soul on a platter.
Oh
and
yeah.
just, you know, you're not going to get like, you know, you don't listen to it for like, oh, what's he doing on guitar? Oh, listen to that drum part. You get it to get passion and soul thrown in your face.
That's right.
It's all about the groove there. And
That's
you know,
cool.
David mentioned the Blues Brothers before, and Belushi and Aykroyd were huge Stax fans.
Oh yeah.
Huge. Yeah.
Well, they had 2 of Booker T and the MGs in their band.
In the band, Duck Dunn and Donald Duck Dunn, and who's the
White
other one?
guys.
Scott?
Yep. Steve Cropper.
Cropper was in them. I can't remember.
Steve Cropper and Duck Dunn.
And Duck Dunn,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Donald Duck Dunn.
Well, I'm glad you're on the Soul Train, buddy.
Oh, I'm on the Soul Train now. I'm going to start
I'm glad you brought
watching
that
old
up, Jamie.
reruns of Soul Train on YouTube now.
My friend, you should
mentioned,
go for a trip. Go see the Sats Museum. It's amazing.
My wife and I went there in the early 2000s. We visited Memphis, and we made a point of going to the Stax Museum and to Sun Records.
Same here. And I also went to Graceland, and I went to
there
Beale
too.
Street.
Yeah.
I got to play harmonica on stage with a guy doing Sonny Boy Williamson tune. So it was great. But it's and if you're not too far from there, half a block from Beale Street is a Civil Rights Museum where Martin Luther King shot, and they kept the room preserved from that time. It's like everything's frozen in time. But what a historic stuff. You go through Rosa Park, the bus that she just, refused to go to the back, all this history in there. You can't walk out of there being moved of what went down. And so I encourage people to go there. And then across the street from that is the Blues Museum, where you get to see all these artifacts of people like B.B. King and Sonny Boy and Little Walter and everybody that made rock and roll possible in the future from that time period. Nice relics in there to go see. So Memphis is a great place.
Which Sonny Boy? Because there's two Sonny Boys.
Oh, there's two of them. Yes, Rice Miller, Virgin, and
imagine just stealing somebody's name and then becoming a legend yourself.
Yeah, and then overshadow the guy. He came down to duke him out, and he was upstaged by the new Sonny Boy too. So they.
See how this kind of music gets everyone smiling, though? I'm looking at everyone, and everyone has a smile on their fucking face.
What's like you were saying about
Sam
and
stuff,
Dave?
man.
Sam and Dave,
college.
Sam and Dave ended up not even just disliking each other. They had a knife fight. They hated each other. They could not stand each. I mean, there's
music, right?
Did not know that.
There's breakups, and then there's knives out.
Yikes.
Crazy.
And Eddie Floyd was kind of like the Smokey Robinson of Stax. He was the main songwriter for a lot of the stuff, just like Steve Cropper or Big T and the MGs were the backing band for most of the same tracks.
Yeah, the right song to order. Here you go.
Eddie Floyd wrote Big Bird about not being able to make it back in time for Otis's funeral, for example.
One little footnote I'll mention. You mentioned Booker T and the MGs. They were the backing band on many of those songs by the other artists.
Okay.
They played on most of that stuff.
Just about everyone, yeah. They were like
I think they were the house band for a while.
They were like the Funk Brothers at Motown, pretty much. Yeah.
So even if you didn't like their
they did
instrumentals, they were just all present there.
Right on.
And they backed Neil Young on his 2002 album.
That's true. I saw that.
Got to throw the Neil Young reference in there, right, David? David, you're up. What do you got?
Well, not Neil Young. People will be glad this month. I actually thought, the original concept, excuse me, of the show wasn't just CDs or box sets or albums. It was just whatever kind of musical curios or anything really music related. And I thought, well, Pete and Martin did a show kind of on this a few weeks ago, and I thought, actually, I've spent more time with this recently than I have with any one album. So it's Pete, you interviewed him about the first book that he wrote, but this is Rob Halford's second book. Which is I think it's 10 times better than the first one. So the first one was much more of a straight biography about his life and times. And I always think your first book great because that's going to be your story. But your second book, if you've got an interesting enough story, is going to have something more interesting in it. And this indeed, biblical heavy metal scriptures is just that. It's Rob's advice for young bands using his own story, for the industry itself, how to navigate it through the horrible world of some of the sleazeballs you meet and some of the promoters and managers that will try and screw you over. And it all does it in a very funnical, satirical style. So he sticks with the biblical idea and does it in terms of scripture. So everything's done with the name of a Bible passage or a book of the Bible. You'll have to excuse me. I'm not terribly up on my Christianity these days. If I stepped into a church, I'd burst into flame. But he takes the kind of the paradigm of Christianity, of the Bible itself, and literally inserts rock and roll into it, which is very metal idea to do. But he'll talk about how you come up with set lists, for example, what to do to come up with guest lists to avoid hangers on. You can literally just dip into any old part. If I'm going to work in a TV studio, if I'm at, how to deal with parking lots, so it's all sorts of advice on, and then it's how he personally deals with it. So it's all done in a very funny way. So some of it's just done in a fun way so that he can tell you an anecdote about this bizarre time in a very Spinal Tap way that something happened. So it's really Rob being able to say, this isn't my life story because I've done that one. Here's just a collection of weird shit that's happened to me and what you can learn from it or just have a laugh with it at the same time.
So David,
learn a
let
bit
me
more
ask
about
you.
me.
So I haven't read that one yet. Do you think that the folks who are maybe a little disappointed in his first book will really enjoy this one?
Yes, because I think this would appeal to people who aren't even big Priest fans, and maybe are just, like the hits, but they just want a good, easy reading, and kind of fun rock and roll diary kind of thing. I mean, it isn't a diary; it's more of an anecdote thing, but it just goes to some fun places that, yeah, you'll just get the more fun side of rock and roll, and it won't bring you down with too much of, because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'm reading biographies and the first 100 pages, I'm like, oh, right, okay, we all know it's a tough time when you're growing up. Come on, right, skip to the actual stuff that we want to read about. Come on. No, this is full of it. This is 100% full of just, here's the weird stuff that happens in a rock and roll band. The bigger you get, the weirder it gets. So I'm just going to give you an insight into what's happened since we made it, why you might not want to make it in some cases, how strange it can be in different continents, how strange it can be when lineups change. He goes into all that, like what to do when you've got a bandmate that nobody want, or that's acting strange all of a sudden, and what to do about that, and the KK situation without becoming gossipy, without becoming, it becomes just a kind of fun way to deal with it. So he'll apply a biblical reference to it, like he'll say like Judas in the garden, that kind of stuff. So it's all very tongue in cheek. I mean, the back quote from Rolling Stone: for nearly half a century, Halford has been the voice of Judas Priest screaming for vengeance against non-believers. I don't think that sells it very well. To be honest, and the front quote doesn't do much better. Rob Halford led Judas Priest. Well, he did leave Judas Priest, but he led Judas Priest and heavy metal itself out of the Midlands and into the big time. Well, yeah, that could be in his normal biography. They're not selling this is actually really fun, over the top, kind of, here's how we inspired Spinal Tap kind of book. That's what this is. That's exactly what this is. A really ridiculously silly, fun book. And it just, when you did that show with Martin recently about books, I thought, yeah, that's a recent one where because books are interesting, I think, but, just obviously reading is in general, but you spend a lot of time with them. So rather than watch a 90-minute documentary, which sometimes in one ear out the other, you have to concentrate in a book so it stays with you a lot longer in a lot of cases. And that's certainly the case here. The first book was just a little bit, he's obviously got an interesting life story, but this to me is, once you've told your life story, then you can get on with the story you really want to tell. So that's what people need to know. This is what you want them to know, I think. So
that sounds like a fun book. And I find I read a ton of rock artist biographies and autobiographies, and some of them are just not fun. And you hit the nail on the head before. I've read so many that I've gotten to the point where the first 50 or 100 pages that talk about when they were kids, I don't care about anymore. I want to hear the stories about when you started the band and all the hardships and the good times. And that's what exactly I'm really that interested
That's exactly what this is.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun book. I found his first book not really fun to read, and I was wanting more stuff about Priest and being on the road. And I mean, I get it. It was more about him, because it's like you get spoiled by certain books. Like, if any of you haven't read the Steve Lukather book, that is a blast to read. I mean, it's so much fun, even though there's gossip in there, there's the hardships in there, there's the addiction issues in there, but there's all this fascinating stories and about the music industry, and he's done everything. And you get done, I get done reading that book, and I feel like he was sitting down next to me, talking to me for like 3 hours, telling me his life story. That's how it comes across. It was so much fun. Not every book reaches those heights, though. Yeah, that sounds like we have to go seek that out.
The best comparison is Bill Bruford's book. Because
that's a good one. Yeah.
Bill Bruford literally starts by saying, I know you don't want all the boring stuff about my childhood and whatnot. So he separated it into chapters, just saying, if you're a Yes fan, this is the chapter you want. And then if so he's the gossip stuff and why I fell out with so-and-so. So he knows exactly what the audience came for. This is just spectacularly fun, and it's exactly what you're looking for, Pete. This is, because you're right, especially with that generation of rock stars that all kind of wrote a book about the same time. Right, we know you all grew up in England post-war, so we know times were tough. You had rationing, there wasn't enough food to go around, and you had to quit school at 50. Right. Okay. We can kind of take that for granted. Okay. No,
you
I'm
cut your
not.
teeth on the early Rolling Stones and blues albums, and we
Yeah,
know,
and it was the
I
first
know,
time I saw Alexis Corner live, and I thought, well, okay, so read it one more time.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is exactly what you're looking for, Pete. That kind of jumped all that chapter straight into this. So consider this the part that you are missing from his actual autobiography.
Cool. Sounds good. Awesome. All right, Scott.
Yes, sir. All right. Just a quick follow-up. This is not my pick, but just wanted to follow up on my last show where I mentioned, Miles wearing a shirt today. Not going to talk about Miles except for this, just to say I did get the In a Silent Way set. It's great. And I know some other people went on a little bit of a Miles spree too. Also got the first Marillion, so I've got.
See, we all have the damn
really
curse. We get it from each other every week, right?
Yeah.
I can see for miles and miles.
So now I can spell Marillion on the spines now. So,
There you go.
So I'm good at that. And Davey, you were right. The EP, the second disc, that's also great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the only time I said break that rule that you had, because that's Market Square Heroes is the But again, we've done that. So
yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's enough about that. I didn't want to spend too much time on those things. Just wanted to follow up. And anyway, my first pick is an artist I've been listening to since I bought his first album back in 1986. He's from Texas. He is an amazing guitar player and pretty good vocalist. Talking about Eric Johnson.
Nice.
And recent pickups I've been digging from him. There's a pair of live albums, and these were done on the Austin City Limits PBS show.
I got that.
Yeah, live from Austin, Texas. This one's from 1984. This one's from 1988. And the 84 one, this one was taped prior to the release of his first solo album. He'd been playing in various bands over the years and doing a lot of session work prior to that, but he hadn't, really done anything on his own yet. And there was a lot of buzz about him in Texas, and they booked him on the show, and that kind of led to him getting a contract and putting out his own albums. And turns out that the set was the 88 set was recorded after the first album, but prior to the second. So, after he had received some notoriety, or at least in Texas he had. I don't think the first album was like had a big impact.
Yeah, well, Obvia Musicom was his first big, kind of big album. Yeah, that was the big one.
I mean, I remember hearing Tones a lot in Texas, but I'm not sure it had a lot of impact outside of the state.
Yeah, not much. Yeah.
So I picked these up, as you may have guessed, at Waterloo Records in the last 6 months or so. They're a good showcase of his musical talents on both with his vocals and especially on the guitar playing. Tends to do a fair amount of instrumentals, which I may like even better than the vocal tracks.
So Scott,
styles mix.
I'm wondering if the 84 set has any songs that he did because he had that instrumental fusion band called Electromagnets in the late.
Yeah, 70s. They did one album. I looked that up.
Yeah.
They were one and done. I'm wanting to get that one now.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah. But yeah, after that, he just kind of went on to do session work. I think, it didn't really have any other bands that lasted very long anyway, or had much of an impact. His music, I'd say it's a mix of classic rock and jazz fusion, and he's just got this great, beautiful, crisp tone that's very distinctive. Kind of sets him apart from others. I mean, at the time his first album came out, Stevie Ray was huge, and he definitely had a way different approach than Stevie did. So that was nice. And as great as his music is, he's not known to be very prolific. No. His first album, Tones, was released in 1986. That one? No, I'm sorry, that's not the right one. That's Tones.
There you go. Yep.
My bad. Second one, his big breakthrough, Avia Musicom. That was in 1990, 4 years later, on a different label. I guess Reprise was getting a little antsy for that next album, and it just wasn't happening.
Cliffs of Dover got airplay, I remember.
It did.
Well, that was the right time because you had Satriani and Vi were kind of
the virtuoso style,
right around that same time. Yeah.
The difference is he sang. Most of those guys are instrumentalists, and he sang on the song.
Yeah, I think he had a good voice. I mean, not a great voice, but it's a good voice for the kind. I think it fit the music.
Did he play in one of those G3 things?
Yes, he did. He was the first. I seen that tour, and I have the album.
Yeah, the third album, Venus Isle, that didn't come out until 6 years after Avia Musicom.
I love the cover.
He took some time between.
Good solid record too. Yeah, but
it's a great album. I love it.
He did not strike while the iron was hot. He must have drove that record label bonkers.
I would imagine so. I'd say all these are excellent. He's known for being a bit of a perfectionist. Yeah. And as much as I enjoy the studio albums, I think I might enjoy them just a little more in the live setting. I've seen them in concert twice. Lineups on these, the 84 set was Rob Alexander on bass and Steve Meter on drums. Trio. And that particular lineup did not last long. On the 88 set, he's got Kyle Brock on bass and Tommy Taylor on drums, and those guys stuck with him for a while. And the band's pretty much running like a well-oiled machine here, and it shows in the performance. 84 set also includes a DVD of the entire show. I think there's another version of this one that does have the DVD also. But anyway, this was just kind of luck of the draw when I bought them. And the first set includes one Hendrix cover. The second one has two Hendrix covers, and I think he does pretty good. I think he does justice to all of them. First set: Soulful Terrain, Friends, All I Need, Song for Life, April Comes She Will, a tribute to Jerry Reed, I'm Finding You, Cliffs of Dover, Down Here on the Ground, Bristol Shores, Spanish Castle Magic, Hendrix. Second set: Righteous, Lover Confusion, Steve's Boogie, Trail of Tears, Western Flyer, East West, CW, Camel's Night Out, Emerald Eyes, Cliffs of Dover again, Desert Rose, Zap, and Are You Experienced? Once again, Hendrix. Interesting to note that although Cliffs of Dover was on both of these, that both of these were prior to the release of Avia Musicom, where the studio version of
so he was working on that song for quite a long time then before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I'd say if you like jazz fusion, some rock and pop leanings, I would say at times there's some similarities maybe to Jeff Beck on occasion. Check this guy out. These aren't a bad place to start. And just a little side note about the series, the Live from Austin, Texas series. The show Austin City Limits been on since 1975. I found these in the wild, but you can get them from the New West website. That's the label these are on.
Yep.
Got a bunch of these, including Nico Case. She's a great
she's brilliant
old country singer, great voice. Johnny Cash, that's one with DVD.
Hello,
Drive By Truckers,
yay,
and of course Willie.
I like how the whole series has a similar look and feel on it.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Yeah, they've changed them a few times over the years. I mean, they've been doing these, I think, since the early 2000s. And there's been a lot of artists that have been on the show that they haven't done sets yet.
Robert Plant is one of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I have never seen that. I would love to get that.
The Curse of the Collector. You got to do your research. That's
going to be typing away right after the show.
I wonder if that's on the website. I'm going to have to check that out. Okay.
And also there's a box set of like a compilation of performers from the 2000s on.
I've seen those.
And I have that as well. My whole wall full of DVDs for that stuff.
I like that they keep them in the packaging as well at P, because Rock Palace do that as well.
Yep.
All their releases.
Flower Hour too.
Yeah, so it's nice to have that kind of unit, because again, it really kind of makes you probably buy things that you'd maybe be on the shelf about if it came in other package.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I love John Hyatt.
A lot of the stuff.
He's got a great
Sorry.
one.
Go
So I'm
ahead,
just going to say John Hyatt had a great one done in
Yeah.
the 80s. Yeah, at Austin
Absolutely.
City.
Roy Orbison, there's all kinds of people on that show.
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah.
will say overall it tends to lean a little more country and singer-songwriters, but
Yeah.
there's some rock in there too.
Vaguely Americana-ish, yeah.
Yeah.
I had the Mary Chapin Carpenter show on VHS in the 90s, and I used to watch it over and over in college. Going way back. Wasn't Stevie Ray Vaughan on there?
Yes, Stevie Ray.
I've seen a
Performances.
DVD. I have a DVD actually,
Was
but
it Neil
I
Young?
I have that.
haven't seen the CD.
There isn't a Neil Young.
No, there is no CD, but they did put some of the features on the box set called Stevie Ray.
SRV.
SRV3. It's 3 discs and a live stuff. And that's cool too, because on that you get some performances with Jeff Beck, all his buddies that he collaborated during the last year of his life, So
Yeah, I talked about that a few months ago.
yeah, so it's all there too.
That's
Cool.
a good pick. Yeah, Eric Johnson, great guitar player, amazing technician, but one of those guys that I think always chose like not to overplay. It's he throws a little bursts out here, but when you listen to him rip, you're like you can't help but be mesmerized by his talents. But he's just never been all about that. Could have been if he wanted to, but that's okay. It's okay.
Well,
He
he's
had a good
somebody I need to
balance.
do a little catch up on. I got those albums I showed, back when they came out, but I kind
He
of
doesn't have a lot more, to be honest with you. And,
he's
he's got
some other things, but
he did
Yeah.
an album with Mike Stern, the great jazz and fusion guitar player. Well, is it all instrumental? There may be a couple vocals on it, but they did an album together like maybe 10 years ago. That's really good. I would have never thought they would have worked well together, but it actually is pretty good. So that's worth investigating.
that sounds good.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Rick, what do you got?
Okay, so we were talking about what you got lately, and basically, I'm going to explain the kind of rabbit hole I've been in recently. When you do, as we know, we all have we've been collecting for so long time, and to my background is that I've been collecting since I was a kid. It was actually Christmas present I started getting records from the Beatles and stuff like that from when I was 8, 9, 10. And I had the vinyl, and I went through that cassette phase. But by 1988, I replaced almost all what I could on record and cassette on CD, and that's been my thing for a long time. I do have some downloads here and there if they're like bootleg stuff or whatever but I'm all about physical product. I gotta have it, and so that's the curse. And as you guys know,
We're here.
and as well as I do, is that when we love a band so much and faithfully, we're completists. We want everything. So the job for us is the upkeep. Every so often I'm on to this band, and then holy shit, there's a couple more live albums from Deep Purple I gotta go get. Oh, you're right, you put a DVD, I gotta get it. So it's all about catching up. And so every time I think I got everything and I leave that band alone for a little bit, I go to the rabbit hole or go visit to a music store I've discovered there's something I could bring home to add to my collection. And so I'm going to do the very band that probably I spend the most money on. I mean, I think Beatles and Zeppelin and Who and Deep Purple and Uriah Heep, probably I spent the most because I've been a fan since a kid. So anything that come along, I invested. And plus, I seen Jimmy Page when I was 18 at the Outrider tour, Robert Plant and Manic Nirvana, and I've never missed a single tour since then. In fact, I got Robert Plant ticket to Toronto. Me and Paula are planning on going. So I've always been keeping it up. And so one of the things is about Led Zeppelin, as we all know, they had the CDs, and then they did the box set, and then they did the remastered, and then remastered compilation. I got all of it, but you think I would get rid of the latter? Nope. I keep them all. I can't get rid of anything that got Zeppelin on it. So the homework really is about what else do I have, they got out there that I don't have. So when Page and Plant did their, no quarter unleaded, all these things. So that was cool to go search out. And then you find out there's other DVDs of them concert, live, real. Some of it is, radio broadcast stuff, or live on MTV video, like the one they did in Rio, which is great, guys. Black Crowes opened up for them, and they just kicked ass, and it's great to see them in this form. So it's about trying to get all that stuff physically, not just seeing it on YouTube, which I got. And so every time I think I've got enough, I go a couple years and I go back and go, oh shit, I don't got that. But for example, it could be something really small like the human rights concert in Paris, Page and Plant played with, Bruce Springsteen, Tracy Ullman.
Yeah.
Play 2 songs. I gotta go buy it. So Robert Plant and Jimmy played at the Network festival in 1990. How to make sure I get it. So it's about every couple of years I find Robert Plant 93 concert. Gotta get it. Robert Plant promoting in UK. I think it's hard to find, but you gotta do your research, right? You mentioned Austin City Limits, and they could, I gotta move over for. The Strange Sensation. Every band changes he had, whether it's the Band of Joy, every tour, I'm gonna get the
Love the Band of Joy album.
and I enjoy it. And hearing these different renditions of these songs, Robert Plant, Sensational. So I'm thinking I'm good, and I go to this store, and I didn't see these things. Jimmy Page. This is recently. Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, Milwaukee live concert. And also what was cool, they put a bonus concert of the show that I saw at the Palace of Auburn Hills.
That's cool. That's cool.
And they did a few songs because Robert Plant and Jimmy Page would have 4 or 5 songs that were altered from every night. Like, for example, When the Levee Breaks one night, Nobody Fought But Mine another night. There was always a slot. All the other songs were mandatory, Casimir, all the stuff with the orchestra or the Gypsy Pharaohs or whoever they were performing. But you would get some other performances. So that's where I got in the rabbit hole thinking, what concerts out there that I've seen that's out there physically? That's the rabbit hole I'm just started. Once I got these 2, like in December and January, I started going back, and I'm thinking, I remember the very first time I heard Robert Plant live, and it was on the King Biscuit Flower Hour on Walk Line Interview. You guys have it on the radio station. I had to listen to it from Detroit. 11 o'clock on a Friday or Sunday or something like that, and you hear a live album. And Robert Plant was promoting the Prince of a Moment tour with Phil Collins. And I remember taping it as a kid, taping a cassette, and I would have it for years. I think that was a great concert. I wish he released that. I got to do some research. That's what the internet for. Sure enough, I got it. It's a live, complete concert of that. When I had that cassette as a kid for so long, and it shows, In the Mood, Pledgepin, Messin', The Worst in Detroit, all these tunes that I love, Fat Lip from the first album and the second album, and it's a complete show. And even get the radio. Tonight broadcasters Robert Plant and live at the King. So you had that, and tunes where the commercial would go, it just disappears. It would fade out. So I was awesome. But when you get to this rabbit hole, you discover they got a little EP of when they did the Unleaded show. They had the one song called What It Is and What Should Never Be, and When the Levee Break didn't get into this album. So I bought this EP just to get that, because you can get it on the actual film. So that's what I've been doing, guys. Just going, trying to find the shows that I've been a witness, because I've seen them every year. And so I've been really successful at getting some of that. And so lastly, the last thing I did, and I thought I wouldn't never need another book on Led Zeppelin, right? Because I got, every song. Led Zeppelin put a book on Led Zeppelin. And that's a massive, awesome book. And Jimmy Page put a book on himself. And so if you got all this, you think you got everything. So here I am at a bookstore, just browsing like I do. And I saw this, and this opened up a whole new Pandora's box, because I got 4 other albums coming. It's an interview disc, a book in here. Like, you got a picture book with, all kinds of stuff of Zeppelin all through it. But there's a CD of an hour video, and you can tell it's a cassette, of them talking about bands from Steve Mary. This is around before Led Zeppelin 4. They were talking about the last 3 tours and talking about what it's like to go to San Francisco and how they respond. And so hearing them just talking about other bands, and the guy would say, who do you like right now? Well, a lot of our favorite bands are done. And they're like the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix Experience. At this point, a lot of them have folded or death or whatever. The Doors stop around this period. So it was interesting to hear them talk about their period. And so that was cool. And why I had to get it? Because I don't have it already. So when you lift this out of the rack, Here's another one called the Beatles. Oh, damn. I lift that out of the rack. And I'm a
Never
complete.
ends, right? It
Every
never ends.
Beatles. And then another curse, there's the Who. So I got that. But you know what? I was going online and saying what other act they had in this format. Not everybody I would collect because, they had everybody from, I don't know, Oasis to anybody, that was somebody in UK. But they had one for Pink Floyd. And on the Amazon.ca Canada is $614. And I wanted to know why. And I look and it said limited edition. This is like number 400 and whatever version. It has a stamp on it. So there's only so many versions of this that was printed. So I think that's why Pink Floyd's so expensive. I don't know why, but I was glad I grabbed this because this person doesn't know. This might be going up in price. Who knows? But anyway, that's how it all started. I was just thinking I got all Zeppelin taken care of and three CDs just in the most recent time. And so if I leave that alone another year, I catch up, some more stuff will be out there.
Isn't it
Rick,
amazing that like people like us and people watching the show can be so passionate and so consumed with having everything from the artists that we love that we will go down those rabbit holes and we will collect everything that is out there. And yet the opposite end of the spectrum are people like, if I hear their hits on the radio, that's all I ever need. I don't need stuff. I mean, like a couple months ago, David was talking about like all those Neil Young things that he has, and Jamie with all the Pat Benatar stuff that he has, right? And Scott with Miles and Zappa and Me Too, and it's like in Deep Purple. Like, so to like the casual fan, they would never give a shit about any of this stuff.
I know.
Right? And to us, going down the rabbit hole is exciting.
Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah.
The thrill of the chase
absolutely.
and getting that new thing. I mean, Jamie, your story with getting that very, very rare Pat Benatar, what was it, like a 45 or something like that?
One of the best moments of my life, Pete.
Right? And that
Yeah.
I
was shaking.
Yeah.
I mean, today, for example, I'm wearing a t-shirt of Suede. I know they never made it big in America, but they were called the London Suede. One of my favorite British bands. I'm going to see them on Tuesday.
I know of them.
Not normally, I would say a Japanese album for a bonus track, for one bonus track, no chance. I found out Suede's latest album's got a Japanese bonus track. I'll give them £40 straight away, just for that one bloody track.
Yeah, they did like this one.
That's an outtake that wasn't good enough for the bloody record in the first place. So and you're just like, easy come, easy go.
You gotta have it.
The curse is real.
That's right.
Rick summed up how perfectly did Rick put that there, where he just said in the middle of that, he just said, I don't have it, so I have to have it. Yes,
that's what it's
there's
all
the
about,
catchphrase.
Right?
There's the catchphrase for the show right there. I don't have it, I have to have it.
I have to have it, right? Yep. So I'm going to kind of continue the live album theme of Scott and Rick and go here with my first pick here. This is going to be a long one today. We've all got so much exciting things to talk about. So I have long been a casual fan of Sly and the Family Stone.
Ooh.
However, I've never owned anything other than a greatest hits compilation. Yeah, because again, there's just only so many bands, hundreds of bands you can go and start collecting all this stuff. And I've often thought about like getting some of you can get like little box sets with all their studio albums like that, or most of them. They're out there, and I may yet go down that rabbit hole. But I have always been fascinated by their performance at Woodstock in 1969. I have a personal thing with the Woodstock Festival anyway, because it's like an hour from where I live, and you can't grow up in the Hudson Valley here in New York and not be affected by the history of Woodstock, right? So I'm a huge fan of the film, and I always love Sly's and the band's performance in the movie. And I've always thought, man, I really wish they had like a killer classic live album, but they never actually did until about a handful of years ago. They came out with this set called Sly and the Family Stone, live at the Fillmore East. This was recorded October 4th and 5th, 1968. So we're about almost a year before their performance at Woodstock. And this contains, and this is like, you've seen this a lot now, right? They recorded the Band of Gypsies, the full Fillmore East performance. Also, now you get all of the shows, not only the early shows, but the late shows for both evenings. And this is absolutely terrific. I'm going to kind of show you what this looks like, because it's a great little package.
That
multi-disc
looks
set.
awesome.
This is great, Rick. This is absolutely fantastic, and the band is on fire. And what's interesting is a lot of the same songs played over and over again in the various sets, but some of them like change in intensity. Some of the jams are a little different.
Right on.
And man, the grooves on this are so good. This was such a good band. So just so you know who the band was. So Sly Stone on organ and vocal, Cynthia Robinson on trumpet, Greg Errico on percussion, Larry Graham on
bass.
great Larry Graham, Sister Rosie Stone on electric piano vocals, Jerry Martin on saxophone, and brother Freddie Stone on guitar and vocals. So you got some really notable players here. But man, this is so good. I'll go through the track listing real quick. So here you get a booklet, with all sorts of information and cool photos and things like that, and a little more information. But basically, you get like "Are You Ready?" "Color Me True," "Won't Be Long," "We Love All," a medley which has "Turn Me Loose," "I Can't Turn You Loose," "Chickens" on here, "Love City." What else you got? St. James Infirmary's on here. Dance to the Music is on here. I get various set lists across the 2 days, but the Riffs is on here. Music Lovers on here. Probably my favorite out of all. I mean, it's all really good, but I think for whatever reason, you would think it wouldn't be the case because when you're playing 2 shows a day, you kind of think maybe the night show is going to be a little bit less energetic. The night performances, the late shows are dynamite. Like the late show of the last night on October 5th is pure fire. So, and I would say anybody who has even a passing interest in Sly and Family Stone and maybe has heard all throughout the decades how fierce of a live act they were, again, before Sly got really messed up on drugs and stuff like that. This is, again, about a year before Woodstock. So the band's stock is not quite as high yet. It's still pretty big, but not because with Woodstock, they went over the top. I would say run out and get this immediately.
Yeah. When you think that's before all the classic albums, really.
Yeah.
Fresh, Stand.
Yeah.
What's it called? The one with the US flag.
Going on.
Yeah, there's a riot going on. Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. What a run.
Yeah. And that hand, what you got in your hand is how they're testing this stuff on stage at this point.
Yeah.
They're really coming their own. They're owning these songs. Every time they're playing it, it's becoming part of their DNA. So this is a real nice moment to get captured in time. It's like a photograph that you did. That's.
I will say, kind of on an extension of that, I will say, I am a big lover of. I don't know why. Maybe because it's New York, but there's something about the Fillmore East, and every performance I've ever heard from every one of these legendary bands at the Fillmore East and the Fillmore West as well. Yeah. I don't know what Mr. Graham was doing, but he got the best performances out of these bands. And every Fillmore performance I hear, whether it's something that came out 50 years ago or shit coming out from the vaults today, is dynamite. I don't know what it is when these bands played this place, but it brought out the best in them.
Yeah.
And this is amazing. I would highly recommend this to anybody who has any interest in 60s funk, R&B, soul, psychedelic rock. It's all here. Dynamite.
They're on my Summer of Soul album, and they're in that movie too.
Yeah, exactly. So
you guys are killing me today, man.
I saw Larry Graham in Prince's band in 2007.
Wow,
that's right.
Yeah.
Great player.
Hell of a show.
All right, Jamie, back to you.
All right, before I go into my next thing that is totally out of Sea of Tranquility's wheelhouse, I do want to touch on, you did say, Pete, earlier that the curse can be the curse for us. Curse of the Collector can be a curse for us. Pete talked about a couple shows ago about Witch Skull, and I went out and bought it, and then I bought their second album, and then I bought their first album, and I am all in with this.
They're great. Yeah,
holy crap. I've been spinning these 3 nonstop for the last
don't say
weeks.
that.
Lord of the Void from the second album. Yeah. I could listen to that riff and that groove all day on a loop. When I die and either go to heaven, well, it's kind of Lord of the Void. When I go down below, I hope this is playing as I enter the gates of hell, man. Yes.
Great. I'm glad you're realistic.
Great Doom band. Yeah, they're really good.
Yes. And they only have 1 or 2 really slow, doomy songs. It's doomy, but it's all upbeat.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Doomy and upbeat.
Doomy and upbeat. Yes, there
Yes,
is.
doomy and upbeat.
Yep.
There's
Bit
a
like my mother.
doomy tone to it, but a lot of the songs can be upbeat. So this weekend has been a weekend that I have been looking forward to and dreading at the same time. Kind of a big weekend for me. So 2 years ago, I cannot believe it's been 2 years, Pete. We did a show. I don't know if you remember our favorite summertime albums.
I do.
And can you believe that was 2 years ago? So I remember doing a show and I was a little wet behind the ears. Nobody knew who the hell I was because I remember the comments. Who is this guy? Maybe it's one of Pete's buddies. I don't know. Well, so quite a few thousand people watched that. And I admitted on the show, I think towards the end, that, I'm playing the new Miley Cyrus album out here on the deck lately. I've had it for about 2 weeks and I kind of dig it. Now, maybe we'll do a part 2 to this next year or something. And I'll be saying, what the fuck was I thinking? But for now, I'm really digging this album. So as time went on, that album being Plastic Hearts, and you want to talk about spending money on things because there's bonus tracks. I got the vinyl because there was bonus tracks on there, a couple live tracks and stuff. This is one of my favorite albums of the last 10 years. I did not see it coming. These are the surprises in life you get with music. You get blindsided by this thing. I have not listened. It's the most listened to album of the last 10 years. I can't tell you how many times I listened to this album. If I listen to an album a lot, over this was on a constant loop, man, and I still play it. And when it's over, I'm sad. That's why I got this, because it's longer. And because when the last song plays on here, I'm like, already? Because it's only like 42 minutes. On this, at least I got another 3 tracks to go. So I did not see it coming. If you never heard this album, listen to the title track, Plastic Hearts. When I heard her do it on Saturday Night Live with the horn section, that's when the gates opened for me on Miley Cyrus. And I sat there and I ordered it for $11 on Amazon as I was watching the performance. And I said, what I got to lose? $11. At least I'll have that one song. Well, and do you remember those albums when you were a kid that you liked that nobody else liked? And you kind of spread the word. It started with you, and then your buddy down the street's listening to it. And then you're telling this guy, your cousins, to listen to it. Now everybody's listened to it, and you're kind of standing there like, yeah, because of me. This is that album. I got people at work listening to it. My mom is listening to it. My sister listens to it nonstop. My buddy's wife is listening to it. And it all kind of started. I mean, she's a superstar, right? But I kind of feel like it's my album. And it didn't have like mega hits on it or anything. So it's kind of not, it's not like the biggest huge, it's not Taylor Swift popular. So I've been wanting a second album, her next album, for 2 years, but I knew it could suck. Her album before that, where is it? Look, her album before that's decent. It's good. It was leading up to Plastic Hearts, you can tell. And then the live album came out last summer, and I'm like, hey, there's a couple tracks on here that I'm not crazy about. 85% of it, I'm down with. YouTube, Facebook, YouTube. It's just a bum.
You're bumming us out.
So yeah, I was down with the live performance, and I always said, you know what? If she comes to town, it's not a question of if I go. It's a question of, am I going to buy a t-shirt or not? That's now the question. So here comes her new album. And I'm like, oh my God. I read a year ago that it might be like a dedication to Studio 54. I'm like, hey, that sounds fun. Let's do that. And then, the pre-sale went on for the limited edition red vinyl. I'm like, hey, I'm a fan now. I'm not a 15-year-old girl, but I'm a fan now. I got the limited edition red vinyl. I didn't open it because now it's going for like $100 on eBay. I'm like, maybe I should just listen to the CD and just kind of hold on to this.
On to that, yeah.
Right, yeah. I'm sure it'll go, all the hype is now. When the hype goes down, it'll be going for like $43 on eBay and Discogs. But for now, it's kind of just cool to have. So, the single came out 2 months ago. And I'm like, okay, this is doable. I'm not as scared now. It would be one of my least favorite tracks on Plastic Hearts, but I mean, look, we like albums these days, right? We buy one and we can love an album, but it doesn't really go into our DNA. Our skin is more coarse these days. It's not the sponge it was when we were a kid. So the albums don't absorb into our bodies like they used to. This one somehow absorbed into me and kind of got into my DNA as much as any album can at my age. So I knew it wasn't going to be like that. So the very first song is the single, and let me get the list of songs here. So I played it on Happy Hour downstairs in the bar last Friday, and I made some notes, very chicken scratch notes, as I was listening to it. And my wife is sitting there going, "What are you writing down?" I gotta take notes on Miley Cyrus. So the Jaded comes on next, and I'm like, okay, this is fine too. And then a couple songs come on, and it's she's getting close to pop country, but thank God the song structure is a little bit close to pop country, but it doesn't have that tone pop country, because that tone of pop country kills me. It makes me nauseous. It gives me a car sick feeling when everybody's down here trying too hard to be country, but also being pop. I'm like, oh my God, it gets me sick. So at least she's not doing that. And her voice, she's got that Stevie Nicks thing working for her now. I don't know if she smoked cigarettes between the ages of 15 and 28.
Uh-oh.
We lose Jamie.
I get that has an effect on him.
The Miley Cyrus curse has hit. Oh boy.
Well, after he showed the bum, maybe he got.
Yeah, he's had the channel taken down.
Yeah,
The Zoom police are like, sorry, that ass shot's not going to float here.
Yeah, censorship.
All right, Davey,
this one.
in light of this, I'll have you go with your final choice.
Well, okay, as long as he doesn't interrupt me. Well, 2 years ago, I heard Miley Cyrus's album for the first. No. Yeah. What an unusual intermission. This couldn't be more different from Miley Cyrus if it tried. Somebody had an 80th birthday recently, or would have if they weren't dead. This is a recent thing that people are doing, these heavenly birthdays, where they talk about someone still being that age even though they're dead. And instead of just saying they would have been that age, they say happy, 100th heaven, and you think they belong dead by now anyway.
100th birthday in heaven type of thing, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't. So anyway, at least it reminds you of people, so that's a good thing. And George Harrison would recently been 80 years old, which is incredible to think. It's incredible to think the youngest Beatle, the baby Beatle. And I was doing a listen. I've got the 2 box sets, the Apple years and the Dark Horse years, and I was doing a good listen to them, and I thought, some of his albums are absolutely awful. Just really bad, because he was putting such an effort into handmade films. He was producing from the Monty Python's The Life of Brian right through to the likes of With Neil and I, The Long Good Friday. He was making all those films, and that's where his passion lay. The Ruttles, that kind of thing. And he was only doing an album here and there. And he wasn't bothered about keeping up with the times. He wasn't remotely interested in being commercial. And I thought, it kind of shows that it wasn't too fussed about his actual albums. Those first 2 are classics, All Things Must Pass, and then Material World. Yeah. But after that, Dark Horse itself, and, they start to slide a little downhill, and then he makes that big comeback one with Jeff Lynne. I think it just sounds like a Jeff Lynne album to me. That that sound that Jeff Lynne had.
Cloud Nine.
Yeah, they all sound like the Wilburys. They all sound exactly the same. The Tom Petty one, Film and Fever, all the same production, every single one of them. So the Beatles, when they recruited Jeff Lynne for Free as a Bird, same sound again. So it just became a bit too generic. So I thought, well, I'll try my 3rd George Harrison box set that I've kind of neglected over the years. And wow, what a great album to just lay back to. And it's actually a box set of Ravi Shankar albums with George Harrison. And much different, obviously, from what you'd expect, just being purely song based. But it is George Harrison on these. It's not just stick his name on it to sell them. And it's called Collaborations, and it's one of these ridiculously oversized box sets. I mean, it's just a CD. It's just a CD, but for some reason thinks it needs to be in this size of box. So this is Chants of India, where George is obviously on there. He's producing it as well. But the real reason, so I'll show you how they're kind of structured. So in each one, you get an exact replica of what it came like, but then the CD is presented like that, just in the middle. I guess they went oversized because you can charge a bit more if something's big, can't you? But the real reason to have this, for me anyway, is this terrific record, Shankar, Family and Friends. So not Shankar, who you might expect on this channel, but Shankar. So Ravi Shankar, with all sorts of guests, mostly it has to be said from Asia, but this is a gorgeous album. Now, I'm not advocating any kind of illicit use of substances, but hey, certain things are legal in some states now. So, if you're in one of those states, please do indulge and listen to this. If you're not, don't. But do absolutely do, because honestly, to be as relaxed as possible and stick this record on, it's a privilege more than it is anything else. It just takes you to another level, and I don't even mean in that kind of spiritual way that George found indie music. I don't even mean that. I mean, it just takes you, what do they call that technique? Mindfulness, where you can kind of clear your mind of all thought and place and time. Kind of takes you that way if you just let the music wash over you. So you get this wonderful record, Shankar, Family and Friends, and then on top of that, you get the music festival from India, with George appearing on it as well and producing, and a really cool addition is the previously unreleased DVD Music Festival from India live at the Royal Albert Hall from '74. So that's the same year that he did Dark Horse, and he did that infamous tour where his voice was completely shot, and he was told, if you tour like this, people kind of stop listening to you because you sound horrendous. He had laryngitis or something, but he went ahead with the tour anyway. And if you've ever heard George in '74 on that tour, horrendous stuff. But this, the same year, is exactly what you do want to hear from George Harrison, where he plays some of the music with Ravi, but he also plays some of his slide that you more so with him on his own secular records with Ravi as well. And this one you get to see the full concert in DVD, and it's all restored by Simon Abbey Rhodes, who was the genius behind the Love Project and the Yellow Submarine Songbook Project and things. So before Giles Martin started being the only guy that got his hands on the Beatles kind of catalogue, and his remixes are pretty good, but sometimes he fiddles a bit too much. And then you get, because it's not a deluxe edition unless you get a book, is it? It's never a deluxe. You have to have a book or a poster and postcards to be a deluxe edition. I think that's in the rule book. But yeah, it's great stuff. It goes through the full glossy pictures, as you can probably see from the glare there. Terrific stuff from the real early days. So it goes through their friendship, goes through the music itself, all the sitar training that George went through, how he would literally lock himself away for weeks, and then wonders why Patty left him for Eric Clapton.
No more sitar, George.
Yeah, it's like, I've not seen you for a week. Well, it's just me and my sitar. So yeah, I mean, it goes through the full story. I mean, it's a really, really fascinating other side that you just do not get the story of in any kind of Beatles story that's told. There is a documentary called The Beatles in India, which is pretty good, but even that doesn't go into this stuff. It just goes into the Beatles themselves and their, the infamous trip to India with Yogi Maharishi, whatever it was called. And this is, for me, this is the real legacy of that, because George took it to heart. And completely, in fact, I'm saying that but they were maybe a little bit too close for Patty's comfort. Look at them there; they're even under one cover. Crikey. This is a fantastic listen. If you want world music that is 100% accessible, it's got the connection to obviously one of the biggest superstars that ever lived, who recently had what would have been a big event birthday. It's a great way to remember the other story of George Harrison that isn't just the normal albums that you'll see on the in the used bins. So the box set itself is called Collaborations. The albums you probably can find on vinyl individually. The DVD is exclusive to the set. So it's Chants of India from '97, but recorded earlier. Music Festival '76. Shankar and Friends '74, and again the live concert '74. So yeah, available from, well, at the time, georgeharrison.com and ravishankar.org. So yeah, that's my pick there.
Cool. Jamie's back. You wanna finish up your Miley story?
My internet is pissing me off. I think it's my extender. I have an extender that's supposed to extend the Wi-Fi. Even if I'm not using that, and it's not even plugged in right now. But once you plug it in, and even if you unplug it, it doesn't, it screws something up. So now I have to look into that. I don't know where I got cut off at on my story, but
you were kind of like 3/4 of the way through the track list, and kind of you sounded like you were like not like it wasn't.
It's all right. Here's the thing: the songs on the previous album sounded organic, like they always existed, and she was just singing them. It didn't sound coarse. Hook, here's the chorus, here's the hook. You can imagine someone kind of writing it down, which is a lot of these songs. They sounded like the songs always existed, and the hooks kind of blended into the rest of the music, and you didn't even know it was the hook until it was the hook. You didn't even see it coming. This one is kind of like that. The previous one, I don't care if I have a hit, was the attitude. On this one, it's like, I think I care again. I think I need some.
Kind of have to enroll with that one,
yeah. And I mean, here, Wild Card is a very, very good song. Island is a decent song, but she has a great line. Am I stranded on an island, or have I landed in paradise? She knows it's a good line because she repeats it about 72 times. But here's the bottom line. Is the honeymoon over with me and Miley Cyrus? No. We just had a small little argument at dinner, but the whole honeymoon isn't over. Just a small little argument at dinner. We'll make up along the way. I expect, because live, when I watch her live still, she's got the full band. That's another thing on this album. There's not, you don't feel like there's a full band. But yeah, it'll be spending this summertime. It'll be fun, and but it's nowhere near the previous album and how that one hit me. So there's the gist of it.
So we'll worry about the 7-year itch in a couple of years, maybe.
Hey, it's cheaper to keep her.
I love it.
All right,
Scott.
Right, sir. Yeah. My second pick is from a band I discovered through SOT, or I'd say mostly through SOT. I was familiar with one song they had, which I liked, and I knew that they played at Woodstock. They were one of the early hard rock, maybe proto metal bands.
Shannon now.
That one song, yeah, there you go. That one song they are best known for, it starts with a cowbell.
Mississippi Queen.
Not familiar?
Oh yeah.
Minton.
Talking about Mountain. And that's a band I've been meaning to check out for a while.
Great band.
Pete's certainly talked them up a lot on several occasions, and these guys were dead center in the formation of what we now call classic rock, psychedelic, hard rock, beginnings of metal. And I pretty much got all of the like early stuff, their first parts of their catalog, before they broke up, and well before the reunions. But first one, which was under Leslie West's name, the singer, guitarist, frontman of the group. Great album.
Yeah, I always count that as a Mountain album, even though it's
I think most people do.
Discography, I put that in there because that was
Felix Pappalardi's on it too. So,
right on.
yeah. And then you got Climbing, which has the classic Mississippi Queen on it.
Probably the most famous, yeah.
And yeah, definitely the best known song. And Nantucket Sleigh Ride, which
Great.
is amazing.
Yeah.
1971. And these were all on Columbia Legacy. Found all of those at Waterloo Records. And then the last four, I got the BGO
Yeah.
sets,
Yeah.
twofers
Mhm.
with Flowers of Evil. And then this live one, The Road Goes Ever On. And then the last one, which is also the BGO two-first set. You got Twin Peaks, another live album, and their final, before breaking up and reuniting, Avalanche. And that's about 1974, I believe. And good stuff.
Good mountain to climb, buddy. It's a great catalog.
Yeah, and none of these ran me a whole lot. I mean, I would say they all ran me between 5 and 10, and got those over about 3 or 4 month period. It's just good cranking, rocking, good time, heavy, psychedelic early 70s rock, just like Mama used to make. They were definitely heavily influenced by Cream, and that's not really a coincidence. Felix Pappalardi had some connections to Cream. He produced Disraeli Gears, and he co-wrote Strange Brew. And so in a sense, they were sort of a successor to Cream. I kind of look at them that way, or maybe you could call them an American Cream.
That too, I can give.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Cream, they were very riff driven and had some psychedelic leanings. The albums aren't completely heavy. They would throw in a few melodic ones and some folky stuff, kind of some hippie music, which I'm okay with. It's a little, maybe it sounds a little more dated, but I'm okay with it. I do like how they split between two vocalists. You got different sounds from each one. But Felix and the bass player and keyboardist, his is a little more melodic. Leslie's is a little more rough and on the more rockin' stuff generally.
Raspy.
Yeah, well, definitely got some rasp to it. And this would be one of those bands I'd say is well represented through their live material. And during their short initial run, they released 2 live albums, as I mentioned, Road Goes Ever On and Twin Peaks. And Flowers of Evil is this. Cream did this as well. It's half live, half studio.
That's right. Just like Cream's Wheel of Fire,
Wheels of Fire and Goodbye as well.
Yeah. Oh, Goodbye. Yeah.
Yeah, both of those are split down the middle. And the version of Nantucket Sleigh Ride on Twin Peaks is incredible.
Yes.
Twin Peaks.
Great guitar solo on there.
Yeah, that's
Oh my
fantastic.
God. It's just heavy and long. It's divided into 2 parts, and the total time it clocks in around 30 minutes or so.
Really weird. On the original LP of that, they fit it because again, it's so long. They faded it out at the end of side 1, and you had to turn it over to listen to the continuation of the song. Then they faded.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah. And it must have been a real mess if it was on the 8-track tapes, right?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the drawbacks of 8 tracks. God, the way they divided up songs and stuff. Yeah, the Nantucket Sleigh Ride also appears on Road Goes Ever On, and it's about half the length of it of the one on Twin Peaks. It's good too, but I noticed the sound quality's maybe a little off on this one. It's not quite as good.
You can actually find I have a couple of them. They released like a whole bunch of like much later on, like these official bootleg series for Mountain. There's a ton of them. Like I have the Woodstock show. I have one from.
I was going to ask you if they have Woodstock.
Yeah, I could offline. We'll talk. I'll give you some of the ones that I have that I think are really worth getting.
Yeah.
Do you happen to have the BGO versions of these, Pete?
Yeah.
Have you noticed that on Twin Peaks that the track listings on the CD are incorrect?
Yeah,
they're off by 1, aren't they?
Yeah, when I put this in my computer, to kind of to rip it to my iTunes, it did populate with the correct with the correct sequencing.
Yeah, I've seen that before on some of their stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
On the Robin Trailer one, or another one like that. It was a mistake. I caught it. Or
Yeah,
Pat-
basically they're listed as tracks 5 and 6. They should be 9 and 10. The two Dan Stuckett sleigh ride parts. But anyway, I just think this is damn good. Just if you just like some good rockin' kind of early 70s heavy pre-metal
Bluesy, yeah. It's hard to
blues,
describe
heavy
Mountain, right?
blues and psychedelic. These guys definitely scratch the itch. They're damn good.
So I got to ask you, you mentioned Cream before also. Have you checked out any of the West Bruce Lang stuff?
Not familiar with that. No.
So it's basically Leslie West, Jack Bruce, and Corky Lang doing.
Yeah.
They formed the band
Uh-huh.
after Mountain broke up.
I got
Yeah, and Lang was their drummer.
He was a drummer, yeah. So
Mm.
yes, Jack Bruce was kind of in between things, and they got together, and
Oh, that's cool.
that's good
Okay.
too. Again, it's very similar. Like you have heavy songs, bluesy songs, folk songs, but it's just
Folk songs, yeah.
it's interesting. You know, they released 2 studio albums and a live album, but it was such like a crazy drug period for all 3 of them that like the records are cool, but they're a little inconsistent. But there's notorious stories about when because they toured constantly about
Right.
all the drugs and all the craziness, and at the end they weren't even talking to each other. So
Yeah,
like one of those super groups that like kind of like has like a really crazy short history, and it's just from that time period.
Well, that sounds interesting. I have to check that out.
I would check them out. They're good. They're good albums. Yeah.
I think Mountain
said,
is one of those bands. They're known for one song. They deserve to be known for more than one song.
Oh, yeah.
Well, because as much as we can say they were Cream copyists in a way, they were really Jack Bruce copyists. Because they even did quite a few of his solo tracks, like Theme from an Imaginary Western and whatnot, from his Songs from a Taylor album. And then getting Jack in himself. So it seems like Jack might have been the attraction more than anything else. And Strange Brew was a co-write with him. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
You
probably
know how a lot of
right.
people probably learned about Mountain through the years is Howard Stern had Leslie West on
All the
a
time.
lot,
Yeah.
all the time.
It was
That
on that
probably got
metal
people
show before
going,
he died as well.
Yep.
I guess I never saw that. I got to a point with Howard where I just kind of got tired of him, and I guess but before he started having Leslie West on, I don't know. But
Yeah.
Anybody
I mean,
see Mountain?
Leslie's a New York guy, so it's or was.
Anybody see Mountain in concert? I see him in the '90s with Iron Butterfly and
Twice.
Boghat, and they're great. And Corky
Yeah.
Lane,
so on the reunion tours, they were pretty good.
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice.
Now, this is long after Felix was gone, and
yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I read about his story, and that's a pretty tragic story.
Yeah, and then it was crazy.
Yeah.
Like Leslie had really bad problems with his legs and his feet, and he got like one of his feet was amputated. So he
Oh,
would
dear God.
go out and tour and be in a wheelchair, and he'd be sitting there with his guitar, and it's crazy, right? But
Yeah, and then the second one went as well, didn't it? Before he died, he lost the second leg. So.
yeah, sad.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Diabetes, I believe.
yeah, really
Yeah.
bad diabetes. Yeah. So cool. Well, I'm glad you got all the Mountain stuff. That's
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
And,
that's just like, these aren't that much. Here they are.
Yeah.
Just get them. It's
They have a
plus
couple of later albums, which are okay. The one, God, I forget the name of it, from the early '80s is pretty good. It's got some good tracks on it. It's got that '80s production, so it's like, to me, Mountain, like, they're a band that I think is from that time period, and those albums sound
Absolutely.
really good. But you take that band and put them into the '80s and '90s, doesn't quite work as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
right.
get that.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, you, Scott, and Pete talked about Woodstock. That was kind of my Ed Sullivan theater. You know how everybody said it's all the Beatles and made you want to be a rock star? It was Woodstock film played on a public television from Detroit, and I was like maybe 11. The only thing I saw musically was Elvis movies and Disney films, right? All the singing musicals, whatever. And when I saw my mom let me stay up for New Year's Eve to stay up, and I had a can of ginger ale while they all having wine and whatever. And so she let me, and they just doing the thing, and I watched Woodstock. And of course, they probably wouldn't let me see it with all the nudity and everything,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I watched the whole thing. And it was The Who, 10 years after, and Sly and the Family Stone and Jimi Hendrix that really blew my mind, that left a mark that, oh man, live music, I got to see more of this. So that's my gateway,
Yeah.
to be honest.
That is a much cooler story than mine. I mean, my musical journey, I would say when I was a kid, it was AM radio, AM pop radio. It was KTEL records. It was
Oh,
probably
yeah.
stuff like
Oh,
the Donnie and Marie show, variety shows. It wasn't cool stuff.
Well,
I did all that stuff too, Scott. So that's
Yeah, I hear the radio. My dad was playing Motown stuff. That's why I know all about the things that you guys were talking about. Sacked record. My dad's a big collector of the, the 50s and that. So I knew the history of rock and roll. I mean, they were playing British Invasion before, I'm 1970. So I kind of got all that music before I got to Zeppelin. So it's in the right order. But like I said, I never seen footage of live performances to that Woodstock. And
I saw it much later. I was probably, I don't know, 13, 14.
I was obsessed with the Woodstock movie.
Me too.
Do you know my favorite of it? I think might be Canned Heat's performance. I think that might steal the show from me. They were unreal.
Everybody has a favorite. I mean, that's the cool thing about the Woodstock.
Somebody talk about Canned Heat.
Yeah.
It was that Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend that really floored me the most. I think
that's
made an impact. And my mom said, "Look, he destroyed and threw his guitar to the audience." And I said, "Well, I guess Elvis gives his scarf. I guess he can give a guitar." So it was kind of funny. So anyway, I guess it's my turn, right?
Before you go on, Rick, I just have to say the Who performance for me at Woodstock in the film is legendary because they are actually playing "See Me, Feel Me" as the sun is coming up in the morning.
That's right.
5:30 or 5:45 in the morning. That's iconic for me. It's just so cool, right?
And one of the
nowadays bands don't play in the middle of the night like that, right? This is it's just it's
one of the craziest parts is that Jimmy played to almost nobody. When you see the actual crowd,
morning, right? Yeah,
people were leaving because he was the last. So people were like, "Well, I hear there's bad traffic. We better get out of here." And how many people now would admit to being one of the ones that left? No, I stayed. I saw
it's like the most iconic performance of the whole thing. And a lot of people weren't even there for it.
I think how much could you handle the rain, the cold, the no food, not very good sanitized area? It got to people. Even a hippie gotta take a bath.
It's pretty glamorized, but I imagine people were kind of had their fill by that time.
100%.
Trust me, I went to Woodstock '94 and I stayed to the end. It was Sunday and we got washed out in the rain. And Peter Gabriel was the last act, and I waited and I stayed to the end. So, and I was 24 years old, but there's a lot of people starting to thin out by then. So, anyway, I know that story.
And then he burnt his keyboard and threw it in. No.
No, and this wasn't 1999 when they got really crazy. Because 1994.
Yeah, where they burnt Fred Durst and threw him in the audience.
So to carry on the theme, my second pick is to find stuff that I seen live and I wanted to get caught up. And it has to piggyback on something that Jamie, Jim, and Pete and I did. We did a thing on the Black Crows, the ranking of the Black Crows. And I was telling the guys that there is on their site, and they used to encourage people to even bring cassettes and tape their show like in the grape, like the Deadhead would do. So there's a site where they have live recordings right from the soundboard. So I told that to the gang, and I got a lot of handful of shows, especially the ones that I was at, like in all the Michigan shows and so forth. And then I went to do what the Black Crows played out these legendary places that you were talking about, the Fillmore, the Shepherd Bush, and that. So I kept on doing that, and I've still been doing that since we did our show, getting more more Black Crows content. And I had to get this one. This one is wrong one. This is the one I saw in Detroit, the last show with the drummer before the band broke up. But this is the last performance with Steve on the drum, December 14, 2013, San Francisco, double CD, and they played Hard to Handle going into Hush, like Deep Purple. It sounded really cool. And one of the things I like about that website, and then not all these concerts are still available like I saw before, so I'm glad I got them. Now, because there's not much to the physical stuff, I got to the point where I just kind of get a bunch of downloads if they playing the same set night to night, but they throw, hey, hey, what can I do? I downloaded that song. Or I wanted to hear how they do Can You Hear Me Knocking from the Stone, or Don't Let Me Down by the Beatles. So I would start going to some of these set lists because they would change it from night to night and go, damn, I never heard them to do these songs. So that's what I've been doing for the last time since we did this show. Started getting songs that I thought it was a cool gem that they played at a show that they'll never play again. And so whether it's from the band or whether it's from Neil Young or whether all these cool covers that we throw once in a while. So that's what I did. So the latest thing I got was this. And just as I was preparing for this to do this show, they announced Shake Your Money Maker live album coming out the end of March 31st. Guess what? The Curse is Real. I already ordered it. It's on its way. But again, I can't get enough of the Crows. They only have so many albums, which is quite a bit, but I just want to deep dive. And the reason being, because every live album is just almost like watching the Allman Brothers. You're not getting the same show. And you're not getting, and that whole atmosphere, whether the song list is changed, so that gives them a whole different approach on how they're going to perform that song, or the way they jam songs and blend it into another track, and they would not do that like night to night. So that's why I like about the band. It's like you're getting a whole new experience every time you get it. So that's what I've been doing lately, and it's I think I checked all the boxes. I got every live performances that I saw for the years I've been following them, and some.
Cool.
I got my fill of Black Crows yesterday morning. Man, I went down a rabbit hole on YouTube. Grace was like on YouTube just messing around, and she came across by accident Twice as Hard, a live version. And you heard down, down. I was like, that sounds good. Keep that going. And we just let the random videos happen. And it was one Black Crows after another. I asked Grace if I could grab a Bloody Mary and put my Black Crows t-shirt on at 9 a.m. and she said no. So I didn't, but I was ready to go, man. I was going to have a 9 a.m. Black Crows party.
Right on.
Rick, is that upcoming live album, is that going to be a double?
I don't know, but I don't know if it's a compilation. It looks like a double album because they had the whole album plus the stuff they do. So it is definitely the vinyl I saw, it looked like two. They told two circle, but I don't know if they put it on a single disc yet. But I know one thing is that it's not one place. I heard it's a snippet from different shows.
Okay,
Wouldn't that be cool if it did one from Windsor, one from the show you saw? It'd be kind of nice if it actually one of those nights. But I'm not sure if it's a
okay. No, we'll wait and see.
but I'm looking into it.
Cool. All right, to finish us off today, I'm going to continue on with live stuff. So, and I'm going a little theme here with these two things that I picked up recently. So for the, I've announced it already. I'm not sure exactly when we're doing it, but Ken Golden and I will be doing a Latin rock primer show on In the Prog Seat coming up in the not too distant future. So I've been listening to tons of Latin rock bands from like the 70s that I previously had no exposure to whatsoever. And there's some great music, right? But I love Santana, right? Santana's like the Latin rock, the big bad, right? The one at the top, the big kahuna. And I love live Santana albums. So I was able to pick up two Santana live albums that I never even knew were available till recently. The first one is live at Tanglewood, 1970. It's a pretty famous performance from them. This was recorded in Tanglewoods in Lenox, Massachusetts, August 18th, 1970. So again, this is pretty much a year after Woodstock, almost to the day. And so by this point in time, Santana is huge. So here you've got a 13-song set. Carlos Santana on guitars and vocals, Greg Rowley, Hammond organ, lead vocals, David Brown on bass, Jose Chapito Arias on percussion, Mike Carabello, percussion, congas, vocals, and Michael Shreve on drums. So basically the same lineup as Woodstock. This is right before Neil Schon joins the band. And you get, Batuka, Seakabo, Black Magic Woman, Oya Komova, Incident in Neshabur, Hope You're Feeling Better, Evil Ways, Savor, Jingo, Soul Sacrifice, Gumbo, the whole 9 yards. This smokes. And this was recorded right around the same time for any of you Chicago fans. Chicago also has a fantastic performance at Tanglewoods from right around the same time. That if you don't have that, it's amazing. That's the Terry Kath version of Chicago. Pure fire. This is great. As great as this is, let's go back to the Fillmore East, 1971. Basically the same lineup, now with Neil Schon on guitar. This is a 10-song set here. This is incredible. Both of these sound really good. This has got Soul Sacrifice, Jungle Strut, Black Magic Woman, Gypsy Queen, Oye Como Va, Waiting, Samba Pati, Toussaint Overture, Evil Ways, Everybody's Everything, and Gumbo. And the dual guitar back and forth between Neil and Carlos on this is amazing. Amazing stuff. You know, the not a hell of a lot of stuff in here, right? It's basically a little bit of information and a couple photos, but if you're a Santana fan,
I gotta get it.
yeah, I mean, I would say, Rick, if you have Lotus and you have Moonflower and maybe some, you need these because these
I'm gonna
are
get it.
from a classic period of the band. And I'm just going to kind of show it real quick because I did get that also, although I have not listened to it. It just came in a couple days ago. I went and picked up the Lotus 3-disc set.
Wow.
Yeah, this is crazy. So much in here. It's just out of control.
Well, that's 71. That means they're touring the third album, right, pal?
Yes, indeed.
That's great. That's a
Yes,
great
indeed.
free album.
So
Hey,
awesome
hey,
stuff.
Sorry, just curious. Did that Lotus run you a lot? The 3-disc?
Not a ton. I think it was $60, I think.
I seem to remember someone presenting it on an earlier show, and it seemed to be a lot. And
I got a pretty good price for it because I know I didn't bother with it for a while because I had heard it was really pricey. But then I started, I don't know. I've been in like a Santana kick lately, and then I remembered that was released the full show, all with the extra 30 minutes worth of music. And I was like, oh, because I love Lotus. So I was like, I'm gonna go investigate that. And I mean, the package is weird because it's obviously like twice the size of a regular CD.
Yeah, again, stick it in a bigger box for no reason. The CD doesn't get
no reason.
And Davey, the interesting thing is they in that box they take the CD. Right, I'm just gonna take this out, and they put it in like this other thing that's like almost the size of like a mini LP. So make it bigger, and I'm like, was really all that necessary? But when you see everything that's in the box, and posters and all,
I've got a Pink Floyd one for Amagama that does the same. No, it was Amagama, yeah, and it's full of memorabilia and all sorts.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a really cool collectible. But yeah, I will say I got both of these on Amazon. They're fairly inexpensive and amazing. So good. I mean, this
is that one Fillmore East or Fillmore West?
Fillmore East. So,
I have the deluxe version of Santana 3, which has a bonus disc from Fillmore West, and that's pretty awesome.
Right, and then also there is the 1968 Fillmore West double disc set, which is also great, and that's before.
I have that one. Yeah,
that one's really good too.
68 one, yeah.
Interesting though, when you listen to that and then you go ahead 2 years and listen to these 2+ years, I mean, this band got so much tighter in that 2-year span. It's great,
and more material, and more
material. Yeah, exactly.
Right on.
Yeah, so I highly recommend these if you're a Santana fan. Amazing.
Man, I'm chopping for it right now.
I know, all this stuff.
I mean, I would say, this was all that, these three that I presented today. Great stuff.
Everybody's presenting really cool stuff today.
Exactly.
It's gonna be expensive.
So I'm sure we'll all be making some purchases after we get off the air here today. So that's the way it always goes. So I want to thank everybody for sticking with us here on this extra long episode. We had a lot to talk about and show off, and we're all pretty excited about our picks. So that's the way it should be. And I know I'll probably wind up saying we've been saying, joking amongst each other for the last couple of weeks, that we got to go through an episode where we don't talk about Miles, and we don't talk about Neil, and we don't talk about Frank. But I'm just going to show this real quick.
1980, yeah.
All that.
Yeah. That's the problem. We'll stop talking when they stop releasing good shit.
I know, exactly. So thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube, all together.
All the damn time.
And you better believe it, folks. The curse
is real. Yeah, we got it that time.
For Jamie Laszlo, Scott Berry, Rick Labonte, and Davey Gallagher, I am Pete Pardo. Have a good rest of the weekend, everybody. We'll see you real soon here with more stuff. Bye-bye.